Oh.
Every time I hit that, the
to see what yoga can do for you, both physically and mentally, through OpenFit.
What an appropriate ad. Chapter 15?
Yeah, no, 16.
16, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I must have been going back to read something.
And are we up to the charity part of that long thing?
No, we read the charity part yesterday.
I think this is the chapter we're on. The Savahai.
Yeah,
Yeah?
Svadhyaya.
Okay. Let's go for it. Then Savahayada, Vedic study, and tapas, austerity and arjavan, gentleness or simplicity, are meant for the brahmacharya, or student life. The brahmacharis should have no connection with women. They should live a life of celibacy and engage the mind in the study of Vedic literature for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. This is called the Savai Yaya. Tapas or austerity is especially meant for retired life. One should not remain a householder throughout his whole life. He must always remember that there are 4 divisions of life: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. So after Grihastha, householder life, one should retire. If one lives for 100 years, he should spend 25 years of his life in student life, 25 years as a householder, 25 years in retired, and 25 years in renounced order of life. There are regulations of the Vedic religious discipline. A man retired from his household life must practice austerities of the body, mind, and tongue. This is the tapasa. The entire Varnashramar Dharma society is meant for tapasya. Without tapasya or austerity, no human being can get liberation. The theory that there is no need of austerity in life, that no one can go on speculating and everything will be nice, is neither recommended in the Vedic literature nor in the Bhagavad Gita. Such theories are manufactured by show battle spiritualists who are trying to gather more followers. If there are restrictions, rules, and regulations, people will not become attracted. Therefore, those who want followers in the name of religion just to have show only don't restrict the lives of their students nor their own lives. But that method is not approved by the Vedas. As far as simplicity is concerned, not only should one particular order of life follow this principle, but every member, be he in the Brahmacharya ashrama or the Krishhasta ashrama or Vanaparshata ashrama, one must live very simply. Ahimsa means not arresting the progressive life or any living entity. One should not think that since the spirit spark is never killed, even after killing of the body, there is no harm in killing animals for sense gratification. People are now addicted to eating animals in spite of having ample supply of grains, fruits, and milk. There is no necessity for animal killing. This injunction is for everyone. When there is no other alternative, one may kill an animal, but it should be offered in sacrifice. At any rate, when there is ample food supply for humanity, persons who are desiring to make advancement in spiritual realization should not commit violence to animals. Real Hashimsa means not checking anyone's progressive life. The animals are also making progress in their evolutionary life by transmigrating from one category of animal life to another. If a particular animal is killed, then his progress is checked. If an animal is staying in a particular body for many days or many years and is untimely killed, then he has to come back again in the form to complete the remaining days in order to be promoted to another species of life. So their progress should not be checked simply to satisfy one's palate. This is called ashimsha. Satyam, this word means that one should not just should wait, sorry. This word means that one should not distort the truth for some personal interest. In the Vedic literature, there are some difficult passages, but the meaning or the purpose should be learned from a bona fide spiritual master. That is the process for understanding Vedas. Shruti means that one should hear from the authority. One should not construe some misinterpretation for his personal interest. There are so many commentaries on Bhagavad Gita that misinterpret the original text. The real import of the word should be presented and should be learned from a bona fide spiritual master. Arkrudaha means to check anger. Even if there is provocation, one should be tolerant, for once one becomes angry, his whole body becomes polluted. Anger is the product of the modes of passion and lust. So one who is transcendentally situated should check himself from anger. Apishunam means that one should not find fault with others or correct them unnecessarily. Of course, to call a chief is not fault finding, but to call an honest person a thief is very much offensive for one who is making advancement in spiritual life. Here means that one should be very modest and must perform some act which is abominable. Apkapalam, determination, means that one should not be agitated or frustrated in some attempt. There may be failure in some attempt, but one should not be sorry for that. He should make progress with patience and determination. The word teja used here is meant for kshatriyas. The kshatriyas should always be responsible, should be strong to be able to give protection to the weak. They should not pose themselves as nonviolent. If violence is required, they must exhibit it. Sakam means cleanliness, not only in mind and body, but in one's dealings also. It is especially meant for mercantile people who should not deal with in the black market. Natim ita, not expecting honor, applies to the Sudras, the worker class, which are considered, according to the Vedic injunctions, the lowest of the four classes. They should not be puffed up with unnecessary prestige or honor and should remain in their own status. It is the duty of the sutras to offer respect to the higher class for upkeep of their social order. All these 16 qualifications mentioned are transcendental qualities. They should be cultivated according to the different statuses of social order. The purport is that even though material conditions are miserable, if these qualities are developed by practice by all classes of men, then gradually it is possible to rise to the highest platform of transcendental realization. Text 4 Dam ho darpo biman as ka kroda paryusam eva ka anam aman kahibjatasa parta sampadam ashurim. Arrogance, pride, anger, conceit, harshness, and ignorance, these qualities belong to those of demonic nature, O son of Pritha. In this verse, the royal road to hell is described. The demonic want to make a show of religion and advancement in spiritual science, although they do not follow the principles. They are arrogant or proud in possessing some type of education or so much wealth. They desire to be worshipped by others and demand respectability, although they do not command respect. Over trifles, they become very angry and speak harshly, not gently. They do not know what should be done and what should not be done. They do everything whimsically, according to their own desire, and they do not recognize any authority. These demonic qualities are taken on by the beginning of their bodies in the wombs of their mothers, and as they grow, they manifest these inauspicious qualities. Text 4 Davi Sampad Bin O Kasaya Nipam Ha Ya Suri Mata Na Sukha Sampadam Devim Ahib Jato Si Pandava. The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demonic qualities make for bondage. Do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with the divine qualities. Lord Krishna encouraged Arjuna by telling him that he was not born with demonic qualities. His involvement in the fight was not demonic because he was considering the pros and the cons. He was considering whether respectable persons such as Bhisma and Drona should be killed or not. He was not acting under the influence of anger, false prestige, or harshness. Therefore, he was not the quality of demons. For the Kasatriya, a military man, shooting arrows at the enemy is considered transcendental, and refraining from such a duty is demonic. Therefore, there was no cause for Arjuna to lament. Anyone who performs the regulated principles of different orders of life is transcendently situated. Text 6 Davayu Bhuta Sargu Loki Sim Daiva Asurya Iva Ka Daivo Vishtar Asa Prokta Arshuram Pratami Srunu. O son of Pritha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. One is called the divine and the other demonic. I have already explained to you at length the divine qualities. Now hear from me one of the demonic. Lord Krishna, having assured Arjuna that he was born with divine qualities, is now describing the demonic way. The conditioned living entities are divided into two classes in this world. Those who are born with divine qualities followed a regulated life. That is to say, they abide the injunctions in scriptures and by the authorities. One should perform duty in light of authoritative scriptures. This mentality is called divine. One who does not follow the regulative principles are as they are laid down in the scripture and who acts according to his whims is called dynamic or asoric. There is no other criterion but obedience to the regulative principles of scriptures. It is mentioned in the Vedic literature that both the demigods and the demons are born of the Prajapati. The only difference is that one class obeys the Vedic injunctions and the other does not. Text 7. Parvitim ka nirtim ka jana na vidur ashura nan sakam napi kar karo na sajam teshu vidati. Those who are dynamic do not know what is done and what is not to be done. Never cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. In every civilized human society, there is some set of scripture rules and regulations which are followed from the beginning, especially among the Aryans, those who adopt the Vedic civilization and who are known as the most advanced civilized people. Those who do not follow the scripture injunctions are supposed to be demons. Therefore, it is stated here that the demons do not know the scripture rules, nor do they have any inclination to follow them. Most of them do not know them, and even if some of them know, they have the tendency to follow. They have not the tendency to follow them. They have no faith, nor are they willing to act in terms of Vedic injunctions. The demons are not clean either eventually, externally, or internally. One should always be careful to keep his body clean by bathing, brushing teeth, changing clothes, etc. As far as internal cleanliness is concerned, one should always remember the holy names of God and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The demons neither like nor follow all these rules for external and internal cleanliness. As for behavior, there are many rules and regulations guiding human behavior, such as the Mayu Shamhita, which is the law of the human race. Even up to today, those who are Hindu follow the Manu Samhita. Laws of inheritance and other legalities are derived from this book. Now, in the Mayu Shamhita, it is clearly stated that a woman should not be given freedom. This does not mean that the women are kept as slaves, but they are like children. Children are not given freedom, but that does not mean that they are kept as slaves. The demons now have now given freedom, but that does not mean that they are kept as slaves. The demons have now neglected such injunctions, and they think that women should be given freedom as men. However, this does not improve the social condition of the world. Actually, a woman should be given protection at every stage of her life. She should be given protection by the father in her younger days, by the husband in her youth, and by the grown up sons in her old age. This proper societal behavior, according to the Manu Samhita, but modern education has artificially devised a puffed up concept of womanly life, and therefore marriage is practically now an imagination in human society. Nor is the moral condition of women very good. The demons, therefore, do not accept any instruction which is good for society. And because they do not follow the experience of the great sages and the rules and regulations laid down by the sages, the social condition of the dynamic people is very miserable. I'm going to stop. Sound good?
Okay. Oh, shoot.
Absolutely, especially after that. That was.
My eyebrows were lifting.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's, it's the same old. Everybody behave and follow the rules and get along, and we'll all be happy. And it's,
Yeah, no.
And wow, that's worked really well in the past, right? And it's the same old in every text like this. And that's one of the disturbing things about this kind of text. It is, behave and, let the standing order prevail. Of course, the standing order prevailing means that somebody is going to be doing something to elevate somebody else, some other class. And if you're lucky enough to be in the elevated class, good for you, and it makes sense to follow the rules. And if you're not lucky enough to be in that class, too bad for you. I mean, this is, I understand the very old text, but man, this is
if the leading class was leading honestly and from the heart, that would be a different story.
Right.
No,
And
not if you still have classes. Not if you still have classes. It's not a different story. It's never going to be.
And there shouldn't be. No, there shouldn't be classes. I'm not even thinking.
If you have good people who are running the world, everything will be fine. And that's not true. I mean, the world structure determines how good life is for people as well.
If everyone was working together as one, as we should be, then that would be okay, but not groups and classes and greed and narrow-minded.
But this basically is saying the structure that exists now, follow that structure and things will be fine. The structure that exists now, and he says, women belong in a certain role, kids belong in a particular role. And not only that, if you go back, there's all different strata and all different levels for even men, whoever they might be.
right. Yeah.
Stick within your strata, stick within your role, and everything will be fine. In other words, behave. This is like 5th grade in a really bad school,
Yeah.
No, Sue, I totally agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying, if we could get past that, then it would be okay to follow the rules. But looking back in history,
if we all agree, if everybody agreed on a way forward to make improvements, right, to everything, and I don't know what I'm trying to. I know what I'm trying to say,
people are never going.
People are never going to agree.
They're not going to agree, and it's not because people are bad and evil. It is because people's situations are different. What you bring into life and where you are born, how you are raised, everything is different. So people are not going to agree, and disagreement is not necessarily bad. I mean, somewhere in here, I don't remember where it was, but also repeated by philosophers throughout the ages, is the whole concept of some people say this, and then that can evolve, and there can be almost the opposite kind of reaction. And from that comes some kind of synthesis, which becomes the reality or the belief for a little while. And then that becomes a text in stone that people then rebel against, et cetera, so there's, it is, to my mind, it is foolish to wish that people would agree and everybody would behave in the same way. When you teach and you have a class full of kids, there are so many different kinds of personalities and so many different ways of doing things. I mean, the reason why people pull their kids out of school is because, in at least one reason, there are many reasons, but one reason is that my kid doesn't fit in and he's being forced, square peg round hole, and it's not working. And yet we all agree that the square pegs sometimes are the most interesting, fascinating kids, and and they come up with some really nifty stuff. I so I'll stop now, but I gotta say, I absolutely hate this crap. And it is everywhere. Behave, be good. Your HR department, behave, be good. we're here for you. No, you're not. You're not. Basically, you're here to make sure that you behave within the certain rules of the community. And we decide what the rules are so that somebody else can make a profit.
Yeah,
I'm done.
no, you're 100% right.
Thank you for putting the words together that I can't come up with.
Yeah, exactly.
But recently I put a post on Facebook about, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but because it's very long, but it's about a boy who went to school, and the boy went to school. The boy used to love art, and he used to create and draw and like very super creative. And then he went to school, and this teacher would follow specific steps of, okay, sit down, take out your paper, take out this is what we're going to draw today, copy what I drew, now color it red. So then this kid moved and he went to another school, and there was an open-minded, awesome, amazing art teacher who said, okay, let's sit down and draw. So he sat down and he waited. The teacher left the classroom, came back, and the kid still hadn't drawn anything. And then he told the teacher, but what do you want me to draw? She goes, oh, you can do anything. You can make this, you can make a tree, you can do a flower. So he did the flower, and the flower was red. And it's so sad.
Well, hopefully he had that fabulous teacher for long enough so that he started opening things again. You know, one hopes, right?
Yep.
I must be on the flight path this week because all my good friends, JetBlue, Delta, American Airlines, they're all waving to me.
Oh, I hate when that happens, and then you can't.
Oh,
even talk.
DHL. Hi, DHL.
There was one part about protection that I thought was interesting, like protecting the weaker.
Talking about protecting the women.
The women.
Yeah, they talked about, they also thought before that it was something like everybody should do these things, and there was something about protecting the weaker people who couldn't stand up for themselves.
I don't know. I just keep hearing, because like this, I can see how people read this and it gets in the wrong hands of people. Like Amanda has shared that there's been like very powerful leaders that have used this information in a very negative way. And I can totally see how someone reading this, but I keep hearing like, you should not be reading this on your own. You should be following like a spiritual guide.
Yeah.
Read this, because it is like, it's intense information, and it's not, especially as a woman reading this very ancient text, it's a lot frustrating. But some of the other, I was just flipping through like some of the other commentaries that the book is like discrediting almost. It's not as detailed. Like these commentaries are very long, whereas like they'll like combine like 4 slokas and give like 2 sentences. So it's just interesting, this translation.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear like what we should really be taking from that part, because I can't find anything.
But I'm reading like this really exists. I've read books based in India, like they were fiction, but I've read books about like this is how women are treated. Like they don't have freedom. They get married, you know, they're very young and they get married off, and then that husband has to take care of them. And then if they don't have sons to take care of them, it's like a nightmare situation. I mean, this is like real world stuff that we're reading.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this shit's still happening in places.
Yeah, and like this idea of freedom, like freedom is a big theme in this Gita. And like I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. And just like this idea of how we think we're so free here, especially in New York, like we think we have all this freedom, and then you go outside of New York and there's so many less rules outside of New York. You know, we have so many rules here, even just like now figuring out like where are we wearing a mask, where are we not wearing a mask? Like what are the rules here? What are the rules there? I feel very restricted living here. So it's this idea of like what really is the freedom?
Mm.
And I agree with Sue, like once you start putting people in classes, you're back to right where we are. Like who gets to decide who's in what class? We got to get rid of all these bottles because no one fits. Glennon Doyle talks about this in her Untamed book. Like no one fits nicely in any, people want these nice tidy boxes to put everybody in, but no one fits in those anymore. We're all so blended. And like people that don't identify as the gender as they're born with, and then people that don't like match what this text was written so long ago, like people that don't can't check off the boxes on the sheet, like there's no option. And then it's so ridiculous, like that says other. What's other? Like we can't have this anymore. We just have to accept people for who they are.
I'll be right back, Pam.
So yeah, I'm curious to see when I take my class, we get up to this part, how it's translated in this person's mind. Not that he's a spiritual guru, but just curious to see what the conversation goes to.
When you do circle back, let us know.
Yeah, I'm behind on a few classes because I missed, but I gotta watch the recording, and sometimes I bring tidbits here when I hear something.
Because it's pretty mind-boggling. But there's like women being protected. If you think about, like, I'm trying to look at something little positive, and if you think about the tribes, tribes that really honored women, where women are so powerful and so strong and they lead, and we're talking natives, and they supported each other, and women were really supported, and you didn't have to be a mom and work and do it all on your own. There was a community. Like if you look at it, for me, if I look at it from that angle, that's a beautiful, amazing thing. But yeah, if you're looking at it where you're being given away when you're like 12 years old and get married, and if you're cursed to not have a son, you're screwed later on because there's no one taking care of you, that is absolutely not okay.
No, and you're set up to just fail. You feel like a failure when we're capable of so much more than that.
Yeah, and why should you have to? Like, why should every woman have to get married and give birth and make sure she has a son?
Yeah. And it's funny because in the translations, it's saying, and so that's why I'm curious, that it's saying like, with the one we just read, 8, I think. Well, anyway, so we'll read 8 tomorrow, but this translation says, they say this world has no meaning, no cause, and no God, that it arises from nothing more than the passionate combination of male and female. So it's like, well, if you're just saying the woman's job is just to get married, just to have kids for someone to take care of her, that's
that definitely was not written by a woman. Or was any woman involved in that writing?
I'm trying not to get defensive about this chapter. I'm trying to be curious about it, but my curiosity may stop and decide that there's nothing for me in this chapter.
I think we just have to do like Elsa and let it go and enjoy our Friday and move to breathwork and meditation.
I think so too.
I agree.
I have one other thing to say, and it's not a rant. It is these kinds of structures that are purported to be the good structures and you should follow them so that you are safe, also don't acknowledge the constant state of change that we are in. Yeah. So there are times when you do need protection. There are times when you are strong and protect other people. If you even think about the physical structure of the universe, nothing is stable. Everything is an energetic interchange, and it occurs all the time, every time, within a certain set of rules. But nothing is static. And so somebody said earlier, that these very static, very locked in kinds of rules are set up to make things easy because it might be easier, when in fact, it is completely the opposite of easy, and it creates enormous tension since it doesn't address even physical realities as they are. So, all right, I'm done.
I'm with you.
My meditation today is going to be fraught with images of me stabbing and killing various people. So there you go. So much medication.
And if you keep pulling yourself back to your breath and staying still right there, then you're doing a great job. I was listening to Joe Dispenza yesterday about meditation.
I like sometimes when I read something, it kind of stirs the pot, because sometimes I'm so like stirs the pot inside of me. Sometimes I'm like, I've hit a plateau in my meditation, and you kind of need something to sort of dig deeper, like, because we got to go deeper, and it's like comfortable here on the plateau. So sometimes it's good when something like you're like, no, that's not sitting well with me, because that means you can dive a little deeper. And that's the hard part. That's usually when you want to walk away from meditation, but like acknowledge it and sit with your feelings, because they're all valid feelings. But this is the time for me, like I'm speaking for myself, where I'm like, okay, like dive deeper into it. Or maybe it's not something, maybe it's just something simmering on the surface. And like, I love that example when I took that yin yoga of like the pool skimmer, and just like skim it away and let it go. Like maybe now it's time to let something go that you've been hanging on to. Or maybe it's time to take action on something. I mean, that's what karma is, right? Like maybe there's been something sitting inside of you, and now when you're digging deeper, maybe it's time now to, maybe like you said, Domenica, like it's time to speak up for someone, or, you know, like maybe it's time to take real action on some sort of issue that you're passionate about. So I think it's good sometimes when we read these things that are like, nope, that doesn't sound right. Because it lights that fire in our gut and gives us that human experience.
Yeah, because not everything is always peaches and cream.
No, that's why we have yoga. All right, we'll take a few rounds of breath. And if you're feeling anxious this morning from that reading or from whatever else is going on, you can take a few rounds of alternate nostril if it feels okay. Otherwise, when I'm anxious, I like to inhale and then exhale twice as long. It calms my body down. So just take a few rounds of nostril breathing here. Whether you're breathing in for 4 and out for 4, or maybe you're breathing in for 4 and out for 8, or whatever your count is, whatever feels good. Make sure you're breathing deep into the low belly, not into the upper chest. And then exhale it all out. Relaxing the features on the face. Sometimes it just feels good to notice where in the body it feels tense. You can stay here or take your hand to your nose and close the right nostril with the thumb. Inhale through the left. Close left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close right, exhale left. Inhale left. Close left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close right, exhale left. 2 more rounds on your own breath, on getting locks and retention if it's in your practice. When you feel ready, you'll exhale out the left side and you'll settle into your meditation. I'm setting the timer and you'll join us when you're ready. Bringing your hands to your heart. Namaste. Have a beautiful day, everybody.
Namaste.